Welcome everyone to Marriott Library's Facebook Live event. My name is Allyson Mower. I'm a librarian at Marriott Library, big fan of books and reading and the wonderful culture and empathy and learning and understanding that books create for all of us. And today I am very excited for this event. It's a conversation with Meligha Garfield and Sara Cody on books versus movies. Woohoo. Everyone's favorite perennial topic. I actually have my own questions for Meligha and Sara, who I'm going to introduce here shortly, about some of their favorite books and movies. But if you want to join in, please ask your own questions. You can submit them to the library's Facebook page, and Jordan Hansen, our marketing and PR specialist and creative genius at Marriott Library, he'll watch for those questions and then he'll relay them to us. And Jordan is also going to post the LibGuide that is associated with this event. And you can even see last year's event with Meligha, which was the first one that we did, and it was so much fun. So you'll see different information from that event. And then, of course, information for today's event. It is going to include, it has all the titles that hopefully we'll get to talk about. There are a lot, so I'm not sure we can get to all of them, but they're such great titles. And I was telling Meligha and Sara and Jordan earlier, I've been prepping for this since like December, just like watching a ton of movies, reading a ton of books. So I've just been super excited for today. And it's that page where the video archive from today's session will get posted. So be sure to come back to it. Marriott Library, we do these events. We've done a lot of them now. It's just basically part of our mission to inspire the creation and discovery and use of knowledge for Utah and the world. And to that end, this event with Meligha and Sara most certainly fits the bill. So welcome to Meligha Garfield, director of the UView Black Cultural Center, and Sara Cody, program coordinator at the UView Black Cultural Center. Welcome to you both.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. Yes.
Both Meligha and Sara oversee the mission of the center, which seeks to counteract persistent campus-wide and global anti-Blackness, and to holistically enrich, educate, and advocate for students, faculty, and staff through Black-centered programming, promotion of equity and justice initiatives, culturally affirming educational initiatives, and retention strategies. What an incredible mission, and we hope that this event will be culturally affirming and enriching.
Yes.
Very good. This is a busy month full of great events. I caught the tail end of yesterday's Reframing the Conversation. I thought it was really great. And I'm looking forward to the Black Faculty and Staff Awards event and the Frederick Douglass Day event that's coming up. So how is the week going for both of you?
I would say that it's going, for me personally, I would say a pretty chill week, actually. And mainly because a lot of the stuff that we had this week was virtual rather than in person. So it was a busy last week. This week was more chill, and the next week will be a lot more busier because it's a lot more in-person stuff. So, it flip-flops and we see how that goes. But yeah, it's been pretty chill. So I've had a good week per se.
Good.
Yes, this week has been like really chill, virtual. Yesterday was a little bit chaotic and crazy, but again, it was just virtual. So we were like, oh yes. Next week I'm looking at our schedule and I'm like, how are we going to do it? But it'll be good.
Good. Yeah. Well, it's good to have some downtime. So I'm glad to hear that this week is a little more chill. So let's talk about some of these suggestions. Sara and Meligha, they both sent their list in earlier, as I mentioned, so you can see those on the LibGuide. And I'm hoping we can get to all the titles, we'll see. But I thought we could first start at least with the titles where we kind of think they are the best books that have been also turned into movies. Maybe just start with those. I've listed them. They're kind of on the left-hand side of that guide if people happen to be looking at those. So I kind of thought we could go start with some of those titles and then just let the conversation flow. And I can't help but just sort of jump right in with Malcolm X because it's definitely a top for me too. So generally, how has this book and this film impacted both of you?
Ooh, Sara, would you like to go first or want me to take it?
So here's the thing. I didn't like actually submit a book. And then I was like, wait, I've read like a children's book. So I can actually tell you which one it was. It's about his like earlier life. It's called Little Malcolm. And I should have had this prepared. It's called Little Malcolm. It's about his earlier life. And it just like kind of with trauma-informed care and all that stuff kind of like builds up to like why and how he like was the leader he was. I have, and kind of like what you said, I probably should have watched a lot more of your movies, Meligha. But it is very like Malcolm X of me of like I don't watch movies. I like really don't. I read books and I don't watch movies. And just because we have this event does not mean I'm going to watch these movies. Like, no. So I haven't watched the movie. So let's hear it.
No, you're fine. This movie, I would also say the book. So if you read the book, the autobiography of Malcolm X, really good book on really the status of just Blackness, I would say, in the late 60s and kind of going forward. I have a personal connection, I would say, both to the movie and the book. I would prefer the movie because it's a Spike Lee joint. Spike Lee being one of my favorite directors of all time. Him and Quentin Tarantino are two of my favorite directors of all time. And so the Malcolm X movie is a Spike Lee joint, and it really goes over just the life of Malcolm X. And you kind of find out like, oh, before he was this prominent leader, before he was this person that was taking the charge in the streets and things of that nature, he actually had a very troubled past. He went to prison. He did his time. He was a gambler. Several different things, did crime, robbed people. But going to prison kind of was like a rebirth of him. And then coming out, practicing Islam. And the connection that I have with that is that my father was actually a minister in the Nation of Islam for some time. He is not anymore, but for a good chunk of my childhood, I was going to the mosque. I was going as far as in kind of listening to intellectual leaders of the time. I wasn't alive during Malcolm X's time, but very much was revered, very much had a presence in kind of Islamic faith here in the United States. And so, yeah, it was very personal. The movie really, I think, dived deep into a lot of different messages. It is a long movie, but Spike Lee is just chef kiss. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely worth the watch, even though it is long. It's such a powerful movie. And I think it's one of the few movies where I like it almost a little bit better than the book, which I think is so rare. Like it's so hard to find a movie that does a book better.
It's like we got one for one now. It's one.
Yeah.
1 point.
One. The other ones I'm a little more mixed that we're going to talk about, but this one I feel like it is better. The one thing that I also love Alex Haley, and I totally love his book, and I know that he can be controversial in terms of like some of the history around the writing of Roots. I still really love Roots despite the controversy. I think it's an amazing story again, and I just think Alex Haley, despite the controversy, is a great historian and a great writer, and I think he totally did it justice in the autobiography. The one, Sarah, it's interesting that you mentioned the children's book, because it seems like the one piece of Malcolm's story that gets overlooked quite a bit is the history of what happened to his dad and what happened to his mother. And that I didn't know until I read the new book called Three Mothers by Anna Tubbs. And I was like, oh my gosh, this explains so much. To like have that.
It's like, that's why I do love reading so much. And there's no way, like you said, the movie is so long and there's no way you can highlight every single piece of that. And like, it's really beautiful that you could see parallels in the movie, but when you're reading books, you can also see yourself in the story.
Yeah.
I think. Like, I really think when you're reading the autobiography, you probably could see so much more of yourself reading that, and you can see yourself in his story, as opposed to watching the movie, you see him in his story.
Yeah.
And say, oh, that also happened to me.
Right. I think what the movie does that the book couldn't totally do was really show the struggle. And like that just got the imagery around what he personally, his own personal growth, and then what kind of like the retribution that he felt like he got to experience, that really kind of came out in the movie, maybe even a little bit more than the book.
There's beauty in silence, right? And in movies and in like that visual, you can show silence, where in a book you can't show silence because you have to read. And so, yeah, when you're showing struggle, you can show silence.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like watching a person grow and change in front of you. And that, I think his willingness to basically be honest with Alex Haley in the autobiography is really like the impetus. You know, I don't know that Spike Lee could have made the movie that he did if he didn't have this person who was willing to just put it all out there and like talk about that personal struggle and growth. Like that was very inspiring. It's very inspiring.
I love that.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so maybe there's one where the movie's slightly better, potentially.
1 point for me, I'm just saying.
Okay, so next on the list, where it's, you know, a book that's been turned into a movie, is Hidden Figures.
Yeah.
Yes. This is one where I've seen the movie, but I haven't read the book.
I have read the book.
Wow.
Yes. In this instance, I think it's like neck and neck.
Yeah.
The book provides a little bit more information. I would say a little bit more background. And so I get to know the story a lot more. And it actually helped me going into the movie. But the movie I'm just a movies guy. So I love movies. But yeah, it's a tough one. I don't, Sarah, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the movie, Sarah?
I mean, I love the story just in general. I love that there's a great, powerful story that gives women permission to be smart and women permission to be in STEM and like all those things. Gives women permission to use their voice and say like, hey, this is my idea. And like, you will give me, like, you will put my name on my idea, like all those things, right? I just love that, like giving women power. That's really important. Yeah,
and the movie, it really shows that. That seems to be like kind of front and center for the movie, and it is like much more entertaining than the book. The book is like, it's kind of technical. Yeah, it's got a lot more details. There's a lot more facts, and you do kind of learn more about their stories. And you get the sense of like, yeah, this was not a profession that was very inclusive when it came to women. You know, that they were very much on their own, and that comes through. But like, really, again, it's like the visuals in the movie kind of make it more. There's a lot more. It's easier to connect to it.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful story, though. Both of you stated correctly. Really just that sense of understanding what women have had to go through in that time, but also they're brilliant individuals that did not get the light of shine, at the light of day at all, to really do amazing things. And I don't even know how to put that in a picture. Like, they were calculating spaceships from their mind. It wasn't the computers. It wasn't
Exactly. And the fact that they were called computers, I just think that is like, yeah, it is kind of mind blowing. The like we don't think of computers as humans now, but yes, that was their label. I mean, it all had to come from the human brain.
Oof. It's beautiful. I think the metaphor of that is that women, and especially with Black women, is just like they're in a lot of instances are the most disrespected folks on the planet. But then on top of that, the amount of contributions, the amount of things that have paved the way, and for again, just the calculations to send astronauts out of space, and they're doing this from their mind, and they got math that's like, I can barely do algebra,
I know.
let alone sending astronauts out of space. So yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think the other beauty in this movie, again, because I haven't read the book, is that they're really strong Black women, and they tell their story of them, like even just like in their everyday life outside of like their work.
Mm-hmm.
They're not petty. There's other movies and
Absolutely.
other stories like that are like historical, right? And they show them outside of work, like within their everyday life, and they do like really petty things.
Yep.
You don't really necessarily see that in this story.
I love that point. They do really support each other because they know what the stakes are against them. Mm-hmm. So absolutely, it's like they build that camaraderie that I think other women are maybe not quite as able to do sometimes. Yeah, it's a total testament to them, like as people, as like characters. Yeah.
It's just a very strength story.
Yeah.
It's a strength in women and strength in Black women.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I would give it, if we were to go, points wise, I would give it to the book.
Really?
I would just say because I would say before watching that movie, if anybody's listening right now, before you watch the movie, I would really highly encourage you to read the book first, because it just gives you a lot more information. And the movie then sells you the picture. It puts you in the mindset. And so, yeah, I would say the book on this one. But the movie is excellent as well. The movie also got nominated for awards and stuff like that. But yeah, the book, it just gives you a little bit more details. But,
yeah.
You know how many books are on my must read list? And I'm gonna
I know. It'll never end. The list will never end. I think I would have to agree, Meligha. I think I'm going to go with the book on this one too. I mean, I read the book after watching the movie, and it was a little harder to do it in that order. I like your recommendation of going book first, then movie.
Yeah. It just gives you a little bit more context, but yeah.
Okay. Now, the mother of all books to movies, The Color Purple.
Oh.
Here's my question. Should they have done it?
Huh?
Should they have done it? Like, should they have made it a movie?
Oh, that is such a good question.
My answer is no.
Ooh.
I think I might agree with you.
I read both and watched them. Yeah, I would agree with you. Should they have made it a movie? The book is much better, I would say.
I mean, I feel like the book is just real. It's grimy. It tells just this beautiful story. It really takes you to Georgia, right? You're there. And then you have this movie and it's flashy. It still tells the story, but it's
not there.
It's really
it
not.
did not give the story justice.
I know.
I mean, but Steven Spielberg, he's like, it's amazing. And
he is amazing.
The snow, I feel it. Yeah, I feel it.
Yeah. I think it's about the language, because the language in the book is so beautiful and wonderful, and you lose that in the movie. And yeah, you do. And then you lose pieces of the characters' personal stories and their personal experiences. It just, it's just not there as much.
So did they just choose the wrong person to make it? I think you don't have to answer that.
I think that's a legit question too. I think your first question is pretty much hits the nail on the head there.
We will see they're remaking. I don't know if you heard that in the news. They're remaking actually, because it was a turned into a play as well, and they're they're making a movie now based on the play rather than the book. But we shall see. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I wonder if I haven't seen the play either, and I wonder if there would be the same kind of lack of performance, or translating the book to another version. I don't know. It would be hard.
Yeah, I don't know.
I would have to say though, Whoopi Goldberg. It's good. Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah.
I had a hard time with it.
You had a hard time with Whoopi?
Because the trauma that is like depicted in the book, right? It's like, it's written so beautifully. And there's so many pieces that are like, I see myself in that, right? There's so much of it that I don't want to see Whoopi be me, right? Like that is me. She is me. And and Whoopi isn't me.
Right. Like you don't want to see that visualization or depiction.
I don't know. Cause like, and I think it just goes back to like, should they have?
Yeah.
Should it be a movie? So I think some works are just so beautifully written.
Yep.
That like no actress or actor, no matter how amazing they are, and no producer, no screenwriter will ever give it justice.
I feel it. I mean, I think that's how I feel about The Giver. Another conversation.
No, continue.
Where just that, the movie that they came out a couple years ago about The Giver, I was just like, what is this? This is dystopian future movie, kind of like Hunger Games. I'm like, no, where is the story?
Right. This is the Lois Lowry book. Yeah, I haven't seen the movie yet. I have read
terrible.
it.
I'm just
really
we'll give you it's not good.
I just think there are some pieces of literature that are just like so beautiful, so precious to us.
Yeah.
That we should just not. We shouldn't. And
Yeah.
that is like maybe our ultimate like book versus movie argument.
I got you. So you got 2 points now, I guess now. 2 points on you. You got 2 books that just, definitely.
They should just stay as books and everybody should read them.
You can't say that as with the library. You can't say that. It's got to be movies too.
I know. I am biased. I will admit it. I don't know. There's something about like when you're kind of by yourself and reading that has this other power to it that you don't quite experience when you watch a movie, even by yourself. I don't know. There's some, because you're kind of like, sort of like what you were saying, Sara. It's like you have more of an opportunity to explore who you are as you're reading, and that you might not, because with a movie, you're being entertained. You're not necessarily at the same time because it's pretty fast compared to reading. So it's like that way to digest, the opportunity to digest is maybe not there as much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think movies are a social experience and reading is a very personal experience.
Absolutely.
Yes. I would say though, movies, it is a reason why movies are a multi-billion-dollar industry. And the reason why is because you can see yourself. You can see literally, you fit in, you can literally put yourself into that story. when it's shown on a screen. It's something about it. I don't know. But I'm also biased. I love movies because it takes me out of, sometimes it can be either it takes me out of reality. It can put me or land me into another space. And then also the enjoyment of watching movies with others. Have you ever been in like a packed movie theater with individuals on like opening night of a big movie?
Yeah.
It's not the same experience as somebody in a book club.
Right. Yes. You're right there. Definitely. Yeah. I think, yeah, it's like they serve different purposes then. And maybe it's like why this is sort of the age-old question of like, which is better, the book or the movie, because it really depends like on what maybe your end goal is. Like, yeah, if it's to have like this really kind of social bonding experience, then a film, there's a book can't quite deliver.
How many book clubs I've been? There's been some good book clubs. I'm not gonna lie. There's been some amazing book clubs I've been a part of. But it's nothing like seeing an example like Avengers Endgame with a packed theater, and it's just people crying and roaring, and it's like, it's amazing. It's an experience.
You must be an extrovert and not an introvert.
No, I'm
No?
actually very well. I would say I'm kind of both. But I don't know. It's just something. It's just something about it. Being in a room with complete strangers where they're not really looking at you, but you can still hear their emotions. It's great. It's just beautiful. I don't know.
No, that's definitely beautiful.
What's the next choice? What are the
Okay, so next one, The Great Gatsby.
Ah.
I haven't seen the movie. I've only read the book. I haven't seen the movie.
Oh, Allyson, why you put these good choice? Man, how are we gonna have books? We can't have books win this. No, this is
You like the movie?
No, I like the book.
Oh,
The book is better.
The book is better.
The movie is amazing, but the book is better. I can't even argue on that one. That's nothing.
How many times I've like had to buy 3 copies of the book because I've read
wow.
so many times that it's like pages are falling out. Like the book's better. Like there's no argument. But the book, I like the movie. Okay, I think there's a lot of things they could have done better.
Yeah.
The soundtrack
Fire.
is amazing. The soundtrack's
It's another conversation.
Yeah.
Translating literature and other things and other mediums to music.
Yeah, no, you're totally right on that. I mean, that when you think about movies and then the soundtracks that's involved, yeah, that it's hard for books to compete.
Yes. But like Great Gatsby, like every time I read The Great Gatsby, I like get this new like idea of like who killed and then fill in the blank, or like who actually is like at fault for the death of, and then fill in the blank, because how many people like actually die in Great Gatsby,
Right?
And like there's so many people to blame. It's like conspiracy theories, and then like Disney has Easter eggs. Like Great Gatsby, I think was like and F. Scott Fitzgerald was like the true founder of Easter eggs, like it, at least in my brain.
Really?
Great Gatsby. I love The Great Gatsby.
Wait, so you don't think that it was Jay Gatsby that killed him?
Well, okay.
Or no, killed the woman, I mean. Yeah. Oh, sorry, people, we got some spoiler alerts, so step away.
So Jay dies, but I think that there's like a lot of other reasons that we like. Was it because of a broken heart that he like
okay, yeah,
is dead, or is it because of like guilt? Is it because of like, so like there's so many other reasons that like as you're reading, like I'm gonna give a shout out to my AP English teacher right now. Hello, Amy. Who like truly taught me how to read a book while reading Great Gatsby. Like every single copy is like colored into different ink and notes and stuff. Like it's a true mystery, The Great Gatsby, like why he died, starting at chapter 1. I love The Great Gatsby.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like that is really what's compelling about the book, is like there's a lot of mystery around him. And then there's like so much mystery around like the narrator's obsession. And
like,
that,
what does the green light actually mean? Like there's so much.
Yeah. And I like the language too. And that the writing, I like the fast pace. That's fun language. Yeah.
I think you need to listen to the soundtrack while reading The Great Gatsby.
Oh my gosh, that would be fun. Maybe I'll do that instead of watching the movie.
Yeah, I'll agree on that. As much as I like Leonardo DiCaprio and several others, the book, yeah.
All right. So, yep, book wins on that one.
Yeah.
Sorry, Leo. Okay. So next one. All right, Sarah, you're gonna have to take the lead on this one because, well, I've seen the movie, but I've not read the book. All right, Silver Linings Playbook.
This one, the movie actually might win.
Really? Okay.
I am very smart. Like I am 50-50. So I don't know, Meligha, have you read the book?
I have, actually, which is weird. I read it in college. I had a friend that was like, "Can we read this together?" I was like, "Sure." Yeah, I've seen the book and the movie. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the movie. I'm gonna go with the movie. Who is it? Who's the main lead? I forgot his name.
Starts with a B, right?
I don't know character, like I don't know actors, so I can't tell you. But
yeah, the actor who played the main character in the movie,
Bradley Cooper. Thank you, Jordan.
Yes.
Bradley Cooper. Yeah.
Bradley Cooper. Yes. Amazing. It's a good performance. Bradley Cooper did his thing in that. Yeah.
Okay, so the book, I really do like that the book is able to speak on mental health so much. The book does dive very deep into both characters' mental health and gives a lot of awareness in mental health.
That's cool.
But I think the movie is so fun with like the bedding and with like the actual dance. Like when you're reading about the dancing, I'm like, I don't really understand. And I can't really get the movements and the flow and because I don't dance. And so when I'm watching the movie, I understand all those things more.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm very 50-50. Like I love both for very different reasons. And yeah, like I've read the book multiple times and I watched the movie multiple times. This is also a top on both sides for me.
It's interesting and kind of good to hear that the book maybe focuses a lot on the mental health piece, because that's kind of what I liked about the movie, because it was like this, youngish man who is struggling with mental health, and that I think is so rare to see. So I mean, it was great to see it in the movie. So I'm glad to hear that then maybe it gets even more attention in the book, and that's cool.
And I think I like the point that you stated, Sarah, where there's just some things that you need to see visually that cannot stimulate, they cannot put together in a book. So yeah, exactly what you're saying. Like for someone that's where I was saying movies can take you into a spot. You may not know how to dance or something like that, but it's like, okay, I get it. I get the chemistry of the people involved. I get, you can see all of it. Whereas in the book, it's just like, okay, I have to picture myself there. But if I'm not necessarily familiar or really into that, I can't put myself there. So it draws me out a little bit. But a movie can immerse you.
I do think this is one where the book translated like very well into the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
All right, got another point. Okay.
And I think this is one where you can go back and forth and like not feel like if you watch the movie first and went and read the book, you wouldn't feel like, oh, I already know, or like you can kind of go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So not too bad then. Mostly books win, but we had a couple movies that won. So, that seems pretty fair.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of soundtracks, then I kind of want to go through just a couple of other items on your list because there's one movie that I loved because I love the soundtrack, and that is Soul. And I think it was on Meligha's list.
Yes.
I love that movie so much. And
I have seen
love,
it.
you haven't?
You
I
haven't seen so? Oh,
like
yeah.
2 weeks ago.
That artist. So it's John Batiste, right? I
Mhm.
love him, and Nicholas Payton. But then I love the character too, and that the character was a musician, Joe.
Yes, that movie. Well, I think a lot of, and that's another thing too. I don't think you can translate. Well, you probably could Soul, but like for instance, a lot of the Pixar movies, so like Toy Story, I don't know if you can really picture that in a book. I couldn't do that.
Good point. I don't think Soul could make if that went from like a movie to a book, I would be totally bored in the book.
Yes, it would be like, okay, this guy's dealing with like a midlife crisis, and just like you don't know, and
That's right.
he dies, and it's just like, okay, well, what's going on? And okay, I mean, you probably, if you had an imagination, probably picture what like heaven and other folks, like really what it looks like. It could be in your perception except for the animation from Soul, but the movie just does it beautifully. It is a magnificent film, and I think a lot of animation, that's another thing where a lot of animation cannot really be, and I mean they do books all the time of like, hey, read the book of this animation, and I'm just like, it does not work.
Right.
Toy Story don't work. Lion King, I think, doesn't really work. Aladdin,
Yep.
it was adapted from a book.
Right.
But Toy Story, Lion King it's just not, no, it's not really.
Yeah, I know, because it does seem like it's the animation. Because
Yeah.
like animation maybe can't quite translate to like text. And it might be able to translate to like graphic novel, but yeah, I can't imagine even having Soul as a graphic novel. Because you can't, I mean, yeah, it's just like, it's like envisioning heaven, like you said, and like the counselors.
Say Soul does have a very similar feel to Reincarnation Blues, which was on my list, of coming from like Reincarnation Blues talks about like having multiple chances at life, coming from like midlife into like life, and then once you die you go back and like you have multiple chances, so it has that feeling. It's not the exact same, but like I can kind of see parallels at least.
Okay, well, we could, yeah, I would say that. Yeah, and I mean, like, yes, a lot of movies have taken adaptions from different works of literature. It's just, I don't know, it's beautiful. Soul, Toy Story, all of these are beautiful. Yeah.
Reincarnation Blues, that's Michael, is that Michael Poor?
Yes.
I see it on your list. I think that's right. I did not read that one. Dang it.
It's so good. You should.
Okay, now it's on my ever expanding list.
Like how you feel about the afterlife.
No, that sounds fun. The others that I did read on your list, Sarah, and one that I really wanted to talk to you about was the Kermit book.
Yes.
Before you leap, I was like, what is this book that Sarah has mentioned? And we totally had it in the collection. So I grabbed it and I was like, this is awesome.
So fun.
Totally. It's like
What is
great.
the book about?
It's like basically life advice, but from like Kermit's viewpoint. So it's kind of like how Miss Piggy totally harasses him, and like how you try and like, you have to try and stand up for yourself, even though you're always going to have Miss Piggies in your life.
Mm.
Some days when I'm just feeling it, I'll just like flip to a random page, because it can just be read like that some days too.
Yep.
Like, let's just pull up a quote from Kermit.
Yeah, if you're like having a bad day, you could totally just like thumb to a page. Yes. Yeah, it's very humorous. It was very lovely.
You know how like there's like the funny memes from Kermit that kind of get circulated through the internet.
Yeah.
And there's just funny like quotes that Kermit would maybe say. That's basically what this whole book is. I'll bring it in so you can flip through it, Meligha.
Yes, I would love to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very entertaining. I mean, and that one, it's like, it kind of started as a movie and went into a book.
Mhm.
I mean, they started as characters, but
Yeah.
I was gonna have an argument, but I'm not gonna even put it out there. I'm not gonna, I was gonna, no, I'm not gonna say it. It would have been another point for me if I would have said that. Yeah.
All right. So what else on your list?
I mean,
Oh,
I'm going to bring up just this very controversial book that is on my list, just because I feel like I do need to justify it.
Okay. Which one?
Black Like Me.
Oh, I want to read that. I haven't yet.
It's controversial.
Okay.
It's controversial.
Why?
So the author, and I'm sorry, can you?
John Howard Griffin.
John Howard Griffin. So Griffin is a white man who, used some medical, he took some pills, used some UV rays for a couple weeks to become dark-skinned. And then where it didn't work, he then used some stain. So he essentially walked around in blackface for 6 weeks to write this essay on what it is like to be in black skin, and to have these experiences. And it's controversial and it's kind of a lot. And this is, back in Jim Crow days. Like
Wow.
It's heavy. It's heavy and it's a lot. But it's also pretty enlightening. I think one, enlightening because there were also Black men who experienced that every day, and they didn't get to 6 weeks later walk out of that skin and get to be a white man again. And I don't think that he recognized the harm that he was causing in that. But then also there was a lot of positive from this essay that he published in calling out the racism that he experienced from the privilege that he had. So it is really enlightening. It's just this, like, I don't really know how to take it.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Do you think it's a form of, in the end, like a form of restorative justice, like where, because he did get to kind of have that commentary, or is it maybe just from the get-go not a great premise?
I think it's an important piece to have because of the day it happened. Had it happened today, it would totally, absolutely be unnecessary and not okay.
Interesting.
This is my personal take on it, right? Like, I think it's an important conversation to have, and I'd love to hear other people's opinions. Again, had it happened in 2022, like, absolutely not. But those conversations weren't happening and were not able to be happening then. Like, nobody was taking a Black man's word for his experience then. And now we are able to have those conversations. So that essay was able to be published, and his word actually was something that people could take as tangible evidence. of like, oh, like you were walking on the street and racism was actually happening.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like,
Yes,
oh,
I guess racism is a thing.
right.
Where now a Black man can say racism is a thing and we can actually have that conversation.
Mm,
So it's again, like it's like a very controversial piece, but I think there's a lot that can be learned from it.
hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah.
I've watched the trailer to that movie, to the movie, not to the book, but to the movie. I was just like, it's an 80s film, I think. Was it 80s or late 90s? I gotta see.
I want to say it would happen in like the late 60s, 70s, but then like, so it had to have taken time. He had a photographer and like people following him around and documenting it and stuff.
The book takes place during the time period.
But like, and then he had
film,
documenting it so that they could publish and
The film, right. It looks like originally maybe 91 and then got re-released.
It's an interesting. Definitely watch the trailer, I guess, or watch the movie if you can. It was interesting.
So Sarah, have you seen the movie or you've read the book?
yeah.
Do you think the movie would maybe be slightly more disturbing even than the book was?
I do.
Hmm.
I do. I'm not sure how I'd feel about the movie.
Yeah.
I think watching and seeing the man in blackface would be a lot harder for me to digest.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Right. Like that kind of visual might be that would be difficult. Yeah.
And I think even just like watching, like blackface movies from
Mhm.
forever ago are very hard to digest, right? Like, so like watching a man who did this for 6 weeks as an experiment
Yep.
is something that I would really struggle with.
Yeah. Well, I am going to check out the book, even though it's controversial, I think, because it's on your list. So
And I do think there's a lot to learn from.
yeah.
I think there was even like, and it's not going to be a direct quote, but he did write that he, as a white man, could order anything he wanted, but now isn't able to even enter the store. Like he really did recognize a lot of the things that he could not do, and was like, this is insane. But then I'm like, listen, in 6 weeks you're gonna stop taking all of these treatments,
Yep.
and in 12 weeks you're gonna be able to walk back to that counter and order
Right.
right? So like you get to walk out of this experience.
Yes. Yeah. And then it's like, well, what are you going to do next? It's like, all right, so for some reason you didn't know before, like, even though during Jim Crow, there's plenty of signage around to understand like how segregation worked, but like, okay, you pretended like it doesn't exist. So you did like this skin experiment. Yeah. And then it's like, now you know. So yeah, then it's like, what are you going to do now that you know? Like that, if he had done like a follow-up or something, of like, okay, well, we should pass these different laws or like have different policies, and then maybe it would have been maybe feel less controversial, potentially, maybe. I don't know, it just depends like on what you do with that information.
I think we can take that information and figure out what do we do with that information as well, right? Like,
absolutely.
We understand like people did very controversial things like that. What do we do with the information they learned?
Yep. That's a great point.
So there's my controversial.
I'm glad you picked it. All right, so maybe one more from the list. Meligha, I love One Night in Miami.
Oh, yes. picked a good choice. Good.
Yeah,
choice.
that one, it's a great movie. And so first it was a play, right? And then got turned into a movie. I haven't read the play or seen the play, but the movie is wonderful.
Yeah. The movie is amazing. And why it's amazing, I think it's because you have a piece of history that many people didn't know. So you had Muhammad Ali, you had Malcolm X, you had what's his name, the football player turned actor. I forgot his name.
Oh my gosh.
O.J. Simpson.
No, it's one of the first like crossover football players to become an actor. Totally forgot his name. But you had him, and you also had Sam Cooke, and so them together were like the best of friends. Those four people, and it's something that you really, it's weird. These people in different careers kind of coming together. One, you have like Malcolm X is very Jim Brown. Yes, thank you.
There.
Yeah.
Did Jordan? Oh yes, Jim Brown. Thank you. Yeah.
Jim Brown, Sam Cooke, Malcolm X. Yes. As well as Sam Cooke. All four of them, just different dynamics, different personalities. And them definitely, I think I'll probably see if we can do that as a movie for next Black History Month. Showing
that would be really fun.
It's a great film. Regina King, she directed it.
I love her.
I know her son just committed suicide, but
that's tragic.
Rest in peace. But yeah, drastic. But no, it's an amazing film, and I would say, so what I love about books as far as in the dialogue with that, but movies that also can, it really is just conversations, and you're like transported into that conversation through a movie is amazing. Because oftentimes dialogue in movies can be boring. It's just like long drawn out dialogue. It's like, what is this? But people that can really like make it captivating, that was a prime example. I would also say like films by Quentin Tarantino, like for instance, The Hateful Eight, or Pulp Fiction, or several others, or even like the Django Unchained, where it's very heavy dialogue kind of films, but it just transports you into that conversation. It's just like, oof, you're in it. And so with One Night in Miami, to be transported into this conversation amongst us four men that are in different pathways in their lives, and shortly after, two of them dying, one being assassinated, the other being also, there's a murder mystery around his death, Sam Cooke. And so really kind of seeing that at their prime, and really the turn of what that is, and having a deep conversation about masculinity, but also like how they come and see themselves in the world as these very prominent figures. It's just beautiful. That movie had me on my seat, like just wow. That, and I think it was came out last year. Yeah, it came out last year, and it was around the same time as was it Judas and the Black Messiah. Both great films, but I think One Night in Miami, where it takes place in just one room, really. It's just beautiful. Yeah.
Well, beautifully put. Maybe we should end on that note.
Yes. But you know, I'll give it to you. Books have won this. Books definitely won. There is definitely some really good books. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say they will always win. There are some really good films that will put. Yes, rematch. Yes. There is definitely some movies that can give some books some good money, like run for their money. But yeah.
I think we should make a bookmark with Sarah's quote on it. Books will always win.
Next year we should have the Office debate is whether or not remake should happen. So
all right. I love it. Yes. Well, until next year and every day in between, here's to happy reading and happy movie watching. And thank you both so much. This
No,
is really
thank
wonderful.
you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yep. We will see you soon.